The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 27 Library Mission. I walk into the nicest library here in the city. Nice and showered. I don't look like a gang member. Just a cool kid with a leather jacket and a few solid gold rings. Kind of like the douchebags back at school. But walking into the nice golden oak library with the hundreds of books to read from was somewhat fun. It reminds me of when I would escape here and just fill my head with random knowledge. But now it's just a ghost place with a blind old librarian that does nothing but read all day. Me and her never talk to one another. But it's whatever. I walk to the back table and sit down. Drawing a breath and exhaling something about the calm, quiet atmosphere somehow feels like it washes off all of the stress that I've been through. I look around reading the titles of books off of the spines. Then a random depressing memory rises out of nowhere. Kinda like an unexpected brick to the face. It was a memory of my mom. She was just sitting in a chair across from my bed. She read me my favorite story just before I fell asleep. But of course I forget the title. But I remember the plot. A bunny with a massive carrot dressed in a big suit of fur traveled through desert and forest to get his friends back from the evil wizard. The moral of the story at the end of the book was that family is a goal that should always be stuck in your head and heart. I shake my head off of the thought. They were dead essentially. Just a couple corpses that the cops didn't even dare to investigate. Corruptness and power-enhancing drugs is all that ever goes into this city. Just dropped off a shipment of those drugs and still haven't tasted them since the first time that Helios gave me some. Maybe I should get some more. Then I could be unstoppable. I wonder if the current top chef uses power-enhancing drugs. Ring. The front door of the library has an old school bell tied to the doorknob. And the first to walk in was Randolph. He was taller and skinnier. But his hair was down to the back of his knees. And not to mention his nails were as long as his fingers. He turns and sees me. His eyes go wide as does his smile. His teeth are heavily stained and crooked. Awful looking. It was as if I was looking at a trash heap. Looks like I found the world's villain, Randolph shouts. The librarian shushed him as he walked towards me. You beat me. And that got me thinking. What if you were never supposed to be the hero of my story? What if you're the villain that challenges me to become better? And now look at me. I'm valedictorian of our school and everyone fears me. But with you being the only loss under my belt, I have to correct that wrong. He spreads out his fingers, showing off his claws. His hair flies up in the air and takes the shape of a fist. He was serious about fighting her right now. I had my box to my side, but it doesn't feel right to swing it around in here. I simply look up at Randolph. Randolph were both nearly adults. We can solve our issue some other way. I stayed trying to talk in a stern and calm tone. But inside I was getting pumped. I could feel my blood sprinting through me in anticipation. Randolph's hands fall to his side as he looks at me with his crooked, ugly yellow teeth. No, I want to claim victory. Just like how I claim Rebecca all for myself, he says confidently as he leans in near my ear. Now I was pissed. But I had to keep my composure. I put my hands in my pocket and look up at Randolph. Crack. This bastard's hair strikes my chest, sending me flying into a bookcase. Books fly everywhere as I take a step towards him. Ugh, I groan in pain as my ribs creak with every step. I had no powers to run off of. I could use my sword here, but I would be damaging memories. You're going down, he whispers as he takes his claws and swings them at me. I duck under his first claws, but my ribs jabs into me, making me stand and take his claws to my left arm, cutting ribbons into it. No power was coming from his strikes. I had to touch him. I dove in for his waist, but a large amount of hair came striking down on my skull. Crack. The floor breaks beneath my skull. Blood was dripping off of the bridge of my nose. I look up at him and swing my hand at him. He jumped back before another strike to my back came down on me. His hair was long and even more dangerous than before. I stand up and whip open my box. I take out my sword, and just like that a rush of power rushes through me like adrenaline. I swing my blade, cleaving through books and bookcases as if they weren't obstacles and instead just clumps of air. Randolph jumps back, but in air as he jumps the tip of my blade scrapes his gut, leaving a nice gash. The librarian screams but huddles in a corner so as to not get in our way. Randolph puts his hand over his stomach as he growls. I'm going to rip out your hair and crack those stupid fingers of yours. I say menacingly as I shake with excitement. Randolph laughs at this statement. I swing my blade at him once again, pushing this power of super strength to next level heights. The air bends around my blade as I swing it mightily fast as his neck. Randolph does not show fear in his eyes. Instead, his eyes tell me that he was more than thrilled to face me and fight against my blade. I was bursting with joy. Other collections. About US. Inkit is the world's first reader-powered publisher, providing a platform to discover hidden talents and turn them into globally successful authors. Right? The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 28. Randolph vs. Toby. My sword passes over his head as Randolph ducks. Then in a beast-like lunge, Randolph swipes his claws across my skin, grazing my skin and tearing my shirt. I swing my sword and Randolph sidesteps and his hair strikes my face. Now this is amazing. I could feel our bodies move in since I swing my sword, and as my arms twitch, his legs twitch to dodge. I swing my sword, he dodges, and a flick in his brain sparks as he decides to throw his claws or hair at me. I swung my sword again, but as it struck a nearby bookcase it was blunt and shattered it to pieces, flinging pages and book covers all over. Randolph raises his hair and blocks the incoming swing of my sword. Now I knew he was kidding. He thinks he can stop a powerhouse like me. My skin becomes pitch black as the belly of my skin becomes pure white. My muscles grow as my bones crack and elongate. My fingernails grow into claws as my teeth sharpen. A shark tail emerges out behind me. A huge fin emerges out of my back. Randolph snickers at my fall. But the librarian was screaming in terror. My clothes were ripped to hell and I was practically naked except for a pair of black boxes on my body. I already hit the final stage. I thought my villain would be more of a challenge. Randolph spouts his nonsense. If I truly was the villain of his story, then why would I be this powerful? I push this water power even more and the circulation of my blood goes faster, coursing through my veins at hyper speed. My muscles grew even bigger as I let out a furious, earthquaking roar. Randolph strikes out with HSI hair at me. I snap my jaws at his hair, cutting it off as I grind it in my mouth. Coming in closer towards him, I strike out with my fist. Randolph steps to the right and then I strike out with my sword. He jumps backwards and lands on top of my blade. I jerk my sword back and he falls back onto his feet. I snap my jaws at him, but he jumps back in time to evade. In a flurry of snapping my jaws, throwing my fists, and swinging my blades in rapid succession, Randolph manages to evade my attacks easily. As I get him backed up in the corner, his hair throws itself over him, becomes a cone. I swung my sword at him, but it was still blunt, so it does nothing to the air. I swing my claws at it, cleaving his hair in half, revealing him to be behind. He looks at me with a big grin on his face. He strikes out at me with his claws and stabs it into my stomach. Just enough to draw blood. Useless, I say as I grab Randolph by his throat. Just hard enough to wind him. He coughs violently as his eyes begin to bulge out his head. I drop him back down on the ground as my claws grow bigger, thicker, and more curvy. Now I have your power. Stand down and clean this place up, I state as I walk past Randolph and open up the front door. A slash cuts across my back. Ah, I shout out as blood runs down my back. I turn around and see Randolph wielding 5 giant blades at the tips of his fingers. They were perfectly formed and a single solid and devilishly sharp edge. And that wasn't just that. Randolph's nails also grew to cover his hands and forearms. He was making armor, and so soon. 1 whole year of being left alone to train his power is all he needed to grow. He even copied what I did with his power. But I enhanced it and was able to do that. So he enhanced his power naturally. Before you say it, I've trained day and night, skipping meals, and doing online schooling just to train this power of mine. I wanted to do what you did back then. And now since I can, I will put a stop to you and your gang. Randolph says valiantly. His hair grows and begins to wrap itself over his body. That's impressive. But you're wasting your time. With that power you are not going to be top chef. You're just going to be stomped by her. And we're done fighting here, I state as I receded back to normal. My boxes are barely holding on to my hips. I put my sword back in my box. Oh, we are just beginning, Randolph says as he strikes out the lights. A black portal, barely visible, swirls next to him. A man with pitch black armor and a huge scythe emerges out of it. "You're going to wish you just killed this man," the man in the black heavy armor says with a deep rumbling tone as he gestures towards Randolph with his clawed finger. "I don't like this," I say as I turn around and run outside. It was still bright outside and people were just minding their own business walking in the street, not paying attention to the young man wearing nothing but stretched out boxers. I'm glad that I was born in such an environment. Randall and his new friend walk out of the library with another man. The man in between both of them was made of smoke. I don't know how to describe it. He was there and you could see a man within the smoke which was more like made up of smoke. He was wearing a black suit with a white collar shirt. He looks out at me as the man with the black armor raises his scythe up in the air. His armor changes from pitch black to a shining white as two angelic wings emerge out from behind him.
His scythe transforms.
The black handle turns white as the blade of the scythe disperses into a mist as a two-pointed tip blade emerges from the top of the handle. A sphere of light appears in between the two pointed blades. The man's helmet disperses off of his head, revealing a man with brown spiky hair and chiseled features. For some reason I am more terrified than before. Other collections. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 29 The Angel of Death. The man that looks a lot like an angel lowers his spear and with a smile and his baby blue eyes he blasts a shot of light at me. I was not fast enough to dodge and take the blast to my shoulder. The blast knocked me on my back, winding me as much as it was melting my skin. People turn and look at me in panic as I groan in pain. I turn and try to lift myself up onto my knees. But as I put my hands on the cement, I moved my shoulder and the pain sent me down on the ground. It was as if my skin was peeling itself off of my shoulder to stop the burning. Tears build up in my eyes as I put my hand over my shoulder as if not to touch it but to protect it. Flap, flap, flap. The angelic man stands over me and lowers his spear down to the back of my neck. I breath hastily as if they were the last breaths that I was going to take for the rest of my life. "Stand up and put your hands behind your back," he states. Is he seriously going to arrest me? I should have just kept swinging my blade around like a maniac and killed someone. I flip over onto my back and look him in his eyes. Behind him Randall and the other guy were walking towards me and this guy. What did these two eat to make them this powerful? I look at this guy with my eyebrow raised. "How about you stick that spear up your ass?" I state as I kick his leg. But his leg didn't even budge. It was like kicking a brick wall. It's pointless. I ate a live bird's wings and heart, giving me this body and powers. So you're fighting the literal thing that all men want. Freedom. And you may call me the angel of freedom. I nearly burst out laughing at this guy. So he ate a live animal, and Randall being a legal cannibal, the other guy must have eaten something that was also on the same lines of weird. So you guys ate something wrong and now punish those who did wrong. That makes no sense, I state with a wide smile on my face. The pain in my shoulder sent me little doses of pain. We fight those who wrong. And you by far surpass a meal that we ate from a god, he says with confidence. But one of you is a cannibal. And you hurt a poor animal in the sense of becoming stronger. So you and Randall are greedy to say the least, I state. But we can right that wrong by sending people like you to prison, he says with frustration rising in his tone. I knew I had him on the ropes now. So a prison is how you correct other people's wrongs but hide yours. I want to know the answer fully, he shouts as he strikes down with his spear. I grab his ankle and push myself between his legs, evading the spear. I rise up onto my feet and take out Fiacla. The immense power runs through my body. I form myself into the beast that I was before. I swing my blade at the Angel of Freedom, bashing Fiacla into the side of Angel's chest as he turns to face me. I sent him into the streets before I began to run. I recede back to normal as people separate and begin to clear a path for me to run. I was ahead of those posers. Randall has changed and now has friends as weird as him. I'm in danger. I breathe heavily as I walk into Icebreaker quarters and see Rock and Kevin playing cards in the living room. Helios steps out of his room and they all take a look at me. Rick and Kevin go back to playing cards as Helios walks back into his room. I throw up my arms as if to ask why no one cared to ask what just happened to me. Rick sighs. What happened, Toby? Rick asks with an arrow in his tone. He looks at his cards with more interest than his ear care to listen to what happened to me. Never mind. Where's Keela? I need a patch up, I ask. Where she always is. She's in her room, Toby, Rick states as he plays his hand. Kevin looks at me with curiosity, but shakes his head and returns to his card game. I walk past them both and into the hallway. I turn to the fourth door on the left. I twist the knob and open the door to see Keela in her underwear and a grey t-shirt hacking away on her messy laptop. Cups of ramen and beer were just scattered everywhere. She quickly glances over her shoulder and glares at me. I'm not that kind of teammate, she states before turning her head back towards her screen. I nearly blush as I realize my boxes are gone. Damn, I say. I go to cover my junk with my hand. It's not like that. I need you to patch up my shoulder. I just got in a bad fight with a few rival gang members, I state. Keela jumps up and turns around to see me. Her eyes were wide and full of terror. There is someone out there that can hurt you and make you run away without your clothes, she asks as she goes through the drawers of her desk. No, I just jumped and had to come back here immediately, I say as anger slowly rises in my head. How humiliating. Go get dressed, I'm looking for something, she states. Just patch me up already, I snap, making her jump and turn towards me. I calm myself. I've been hurting for a half hour now and just came back. My shoulder feels as if it's melting off and I want something to make it feel better. Sorry for yelling, but I need this problem solved right now, I state as I walk towards pointing at my shoulder. Fine, just stop right where you are, she states as she walks behind me to her closet. She takes out a tiny box of first aid and a white towel. She throws it on the pain-throbbing shoulder. I jump at the pain. Put it over junk so I don't have to look at it. I quickly do as she says. She sits on her bed and pats the space of her bed to tell me to sit. I sit over by her and she begins to wrap my wound up, putting oil and all sorts of other medicine on the wound before completely wrapping it up. Thanks, I state as she stands up and walks over to her desk and pulls out a notebook. It's fine. Just tell me the names of who beat you, she states coldly. I'll... The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 30. Keela's Notebook. So over this past year there have been many opponents and plenty of people that I've made enemies with, but very few have beaten me. And Keela here is waving around this notebook that has names of all those people. I kind of like that Helios and Kevin's names are scratched from it. But there is Lee, Phil, Kyla Simmons, and a man simply known by the name of Slaughter. Pretty much everyone that I had to run from because Helios didn't want them to die and our fights took hours. I still owe Lee a visit. So can you tell me the names of the men that beat you? Keela asks as she waits with pen in hand. I look at her with an eyebrow raised. Was this really a question from a teammate or someone that has a plan to gather people who will and possibly can destroy me? Why do you want to know? I ask as I wrap the towel around my waist. Because you're terrifyingly strong. And you've proven to either bash in or scare off everyone that I thought would be able to beat you. For instance, I thought Kevin would smash you into pieces, but that wasn't what happened. Instead, what happened is that you destroyed him and stole his ability, Keela states with excitement creeping into her tone. I didn't steal anything. And besides, you have witnessed enough battles to know how my powers work. So don't play dumb. You could have guessed that I would have won. I started to walk out of her room. Yeah, but the best part about you is that even sometimes you don't seem to be in control of yourself. So for all I know is that you could have lost. I turn around with my eyebrow raised. I have 100% control over myself. And if it wasn't for the chain that Helios has me under, I would tear you all to sunder, I say with a wide smile on my face. I drop my hands to my side to show off my amazing body. The box that was strapped over my shoulder was behind me, hanging out at the doorway. And as for you, you won't make it if you keep pissing me off, I say with a snarky grin. Sure. You're always going to get injured and so you'll always need me. And then there is the case that I know of at least 3 people that can beat you. And now I might know 6 people who can, Keela says, getting up from her chair and walking towards me, one step in front of the other provocatively, swaying her hips and looking me up and down. I gulped down whatever saliva that I had building up in my mouth. Hey now. I wouldn't come near me unless you want to bashing, I shout out nervously. But that doesn't stop her from leaning against my chest, placing her hand on my chest. I think you're going to your room now. Unless you want to stay in mine, Keela says, looking up at me, biting her lower lip. I stand there with my mouth open and blushing. Piggy, a distant and nearly whisper of a voice shouts. I'm suddenly reminded of the fat oaf that I was. If I was still that right now, she wouldn't be over me. I wouldn't be in this gang. I would have just been another fat kid with overwhelming and strict parents. I probably just killed myself instead of being here. My face went from blushing like an idiot to serious and angry. I grab Keela by her arm and she looks up at me with a smile. I let go of her arm and walked out of her room. Toby, I was just joking, she states with a hint of chuckling in her throat. I wanted to snap it. I wanted her flesh to creak and then rip. I don't care. Leave me alone before I break you, I say while walking towards my room that was to the right. Why not do it right now, she says, trying to provoke me. I hate bitches like her. I open my box. Oh, I'm sorry, Toby. I'll get back in my room now, she says with fear coming out of her mouth as fast as her words. Her door slowly closes as I open mine. My room was unnecessarily clean. Not a speck of dust could be seen. My bed was neat and tucked. My closet was full of folded and put away clothes. My black laundry basket was filled to the brim with bloody clothes. My desk was wooden and slick. I could practically see the reflection of my teeth on that desk. I had nothing better to do with my time. Helios is getting another shipment of this new stuff we got last week. We barely were able to hold on to it for a week before they robbed us of our entire stock. But we made good money. I jump onto my bed, back first. The mattress felt like a cloud and the pillow was made of memory foam. It was stiff but not too stiff. My flesh melts back and my muscles begin to spread. I let out a deep breath and along with it I let out a sigh of relaxation. Enjoying your little party over there, says Ms. Casey, the physiatrist that had a rare permanent ability of invisibility. She says over in the corner. What she touches becomes invisible. That is why I can't even see the chain that bind her. Rick the pig thought he was standing to a naked chick the entire time. It was funny. But no, she's fully clothed and even more so pissed. But who can say no to free therapy?
The Gourmet Gladiator, chapters 27 through 30. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.